Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are stripping away the intro music and the preamble, because we need to talk about something that has fundamentally changed the world of technology. If you fell asleep in late 2023 and woke up today, in the early months of 2026, you would not just be confused by the new gadgets. You would be confused by the silence. If you walk into a modern software engineering floor today, or more likely, if you log into a distributed development huddle, you will not hear the familiar clatter of mechanical keyboards furiously typing out boilerplate code. That sound, which defined the industry for 40 years, is gone. Instead, you hear conversation. You see architects drawing on infinite digital canvases while streams of logic materialize in the background. We have officially crossed the Rubicon. For decades, coding was synonymous with typing. It was a manual trade, closer to bricklaying than architecture. You had a blueprint in your head, but you had to lay every single syntactic brick by hand. In 2026, the bricks lay themselves. The so-called AI summer of 2024 and 2025 did not just make us faster, it fundamentally inverted the stack. We are no longer writers of code. We are architects of intelligence and orchestrators of agents. The standard of competence in 2026 is not determined by how many lines of Python or Rust you can write from memory. It is about how many autonomous agents you can successfully shepherd toward a business goal without crashing production. This shift is profound. 3 years ago, we marveled at copilots. These were essentially autocomplete systems on steroids that could guess the next 3 lines of a function. It felt magical at the time. Today, that technology feels as quaint as T9 texting on a flip phone. The standard has shifted to what we call agentic workflows. We do not ask AI to write a function to sort a list anymore. We ask an AI agent to refactor the payment microservice to support the new European Union compliance standards, write the migration scripts, and update the documentation. And then, we go get coffee. When we return, we do not review code line by line in the traditional sense. We review intent. We review logic. We audit the agent's decision-making process. The AI has graduated from a junior pair programmer to a tireless, hyper-fast, mid-level engineer that never sleeps, though it does occasionally hallucinate dangerous dependencies. This brings us to the tools of 2026, the new Iron Throne of development. The IDE wars of the early 20s are over, and the winner wasn't a text editor. It was the context environment. While Visual Studio Code remains the skeleton of the industry, the organs have been completely replaced. 2 dominant paradigms have emerged. First, you have tools like Windsurf, which popularized the concept of deep context awareness. This tool doesn't just see the file you have open. It indexes your entire repository, your Slack history, your Jira tickets, and your production logs. When you type a command like fix the bug, Windsurf knows exactly which bug you mean because it saw the sentry alert 5 minutes ago. It preemptively suggests architectural changes, not just syntax fixes. Then, on the other end of the spectrum, we have platforms like Google Anti-Gravity. This feels less like a text editor and more like a command center. You don't write code here, you manage lanes of agents. Lane 1 is working on front-end components. Lane 2 is optimizing database queries. Lane 3 is writing integration tests. Your job is to resolve conflicts between them. It is essentially the Minority Report interface for DevOps. Ironically, as graphical interfaces became smarter, the command line interface, or CLI, made a massive comeback. Tools like Claude Code and Gemini CLI turned the terminal into a conversational interface. Developers in 2026 often spend their day in a natural language terminal. You might type a command like agent run -- task, analyze the last 500 error logs, and generate a patch for the memory leak. The system responds, Agent 1 analyzing logs. Agent 1 pattern identified an image processing worker. Agent 1 drafted patch. Running regression tests. Tests passed. Ready for review. This is not scripting. This is delegation. The terminal is no longer a place for memorizing flags. It is the direct line to a synthetic workforce. This new reality has created a cultural schism in the developer community. On one side, we have vibe coding. This is a term coined for rapid prototyping, where the human creator knows almost no code. They describe a vibe or a feature set, and the AI builds the entire app. This has democratized software creation, allowing marketing teams and product managers to ship internal tools without bothering engineering. On the other side is system engineering. This is where the professionals live. Because AI writes code so easily, the volume of code has exploded. The professional's job is to manage this complexity. They focus on governance, ensuring the AI isn't introducing licenses we can't use. They focus on security, because prompt injection in code generation is the new SQL injection. And they focus on cost, because an infinite loop of AI agents calling APIs can bankrupt a startup in an hour. So the most anxious question of 2024 was, will AI replace developers? The answer we have arrived at in 2026 is nuanced. AI replaced the typist, but it elevated the thinker. If your value proposition was memorizing the syntax of the Java Stream API, you are obsolete. If your value proposition was understanding distributed system consistency and business logic, you are now 10 times more valuable. This has given rise to a new discipline called context engineering. Prompt engineering turned out to be a fad, but context engineering is the real deal. It is the art of curating the knowledge graph that the AI uses. An AI is only as good as the context it is fed. A senior developer in 2026 spends hours configuring the cursor rules or agent configuration files. They define the personality of the codebase. They might write rules like, in this module we prefer functional patterns, or never use this library, it has a known vulnerability, or when touching the billing system, require double human approval. You are effectively programming the programmer. This requires a blue team mindset. With AI generating 90% of the code, the human becomes the permanent auditor. The skill of code review has become more important than code writing. But it is harder now. You didn't write the code, so you don't have the mental model of why it was written that way. Developers are developing a forensic skill set. They use AI tools to interrogate the code, asking questions like, why did you choose this sorting algorithm? Or show me the edge case where this fails. Or simulate a high latency network environment for this function. The lone wolf 10x engineer is a dying breed. The 2026 10x engineer is a force multiplier. They manage a squad of 5 autonomous AI agents and coordinate with human stakeholders. Communication is paramount. You have to translate vague business requirements into rigid specs that an AI can execute without hallucinating. The ambiguity of human language is the biggest bottleneck. The best developers are now essentially contract lawyers, writing specifications so tight that the AI cannot misinterpret them. The software development lifecycle itself has collapsed. The linear waterfall or even agile sprints feel sluggish. We are in the era of continuous generation. Nobody starts from a blank page anymore. In 2023, you might have searched Stack Overflow to build a user auth system. In 2026, you tell the agent to scaffold a user auth system using the company's security library, adhering to SOC 2 compliance, and drafting the GraphQL schema. 30 seconds later, you have a working skeleton. The planning phase is now a prototype review phase. Perhaps the most interesting shift is in testing. Test-driven development has finally won, but not how we expected. The rule is simple. Humans write the tests, and AI writes the implementation. This is the golden rule of 2026. Never let the AI write its own tests. If the AI hallucinates the code, it will likely hallucinate a test that passes that code. The human role is to define the truth, which are the test cases. The AI's job is to satisfy the truth. Deployment has also changed. CI/CD pipelines are no longer static scripts. They are intelligent. If a deployment fails in staging, the pipeline doesn't just fail. It diagnoses and patches. It might say, alert, deployment failed, latency spike in API. Then the AIOps responds, rolling back, analyzing logs, found an N+1 query introduced in commit 4A2B, generating patch, rerunning tests. This self-healing capability has reduced pager fatigue, but it introduces a fear of ghost code, which are fixes running in production that no human explicitly authorized. Now, we must address the elephant in the room, the junior developer crisis. In 2026, the industry is facing a crisis of apprenticeship. Traditionally, junior developers learned by doing the grunt work, writing simple functions, fixing minor bugs, and writing documentation. Today, AI does all of that instantly and perfectly. So how does a junior become a senior? If you never struggle with a syntax error, do you ever truly understand how the compiler thinks? If you never write a SQL query by hand, do you understand execution plans? Companies are scrambling to solve this. We are seeing the rise of flight simulators, which are artificial environments where juniors are forced to code manually or debug broken AI systems to prove their competence. Computer science degrees are pivoting away from syntax and towards system design, ethics, and product management. The CS grad of 2026 is less of a C++ wizard and more of a systems architect. It is not all utopian efficiency, however. The 2026 landscape is a minefield of new risks. There is a security arms race. Vulnerability injection is a real threat. Malicious actors are poisoning the training data of open-source models. An agent might innocently suggest a package that contains a dormant backdoor. Security teams are no longer looking for bugs. They are looking for patterns of deception in AI output. Zero-trust coding is the standard. Every line of AI-generated code is treated as potentially hostile until verified. Then there is the copyright quagmire. Legal battles are still raging. When an AI generates a function that looks 99% like a proprietary algorithm from a competitor, who is liable? Enterprise cleanrooms are standard now. Corporate AI models are trained only on permissible open-source code and internal codebases, walled off from the wild internet to prevent IP contamination. And finally, there is technical debt at the speed of light. It is easier than ever to create code. It is harder than ever to maintain it. We are seeing code bloat on a massive scale. Because AI can write it for you. Developers are accepting 500 lines of code where 50 would do. Refactoring agents are constantly running in the background, trying to prune the jungle that the creation agents are growing. It is a constant battle between growth and decay. So what does a day in the life look like for you, the developer, in 2026? You log in at 9 a.m. The daily briefing agent summarizes the night's automated work. It tells you it optimized 4 SQL queries, updated the React dependencies, and flagged a potential security risk in the login module. At 9:30, your stand-up is a text-based sync with the team and the squad lead AI. The humans discuss strategy. The AI updates the Jira board based on Git commits. At 10 a.m., you enter deep work. You open Windsurf. You need to build a new feature, voice to action for the mobile app. You do not type import audio. You open a canvas and drag in the audio processing agent and the UI component agent. You write a spec. The user should be able to hold a button, speak a command, and have the app execute it. Latency must be under 200 milliseconds. You watch as the agents generate the front-end components, the back-end API endpoints, and the WebSocket handlers. Your job is to spot the mistake. You notice the agent forgot to handle the offline mode state. You add a comment, handle offline graceful degradation. The code rewrites itself in seconds. At 1 p.m. you do code review. A junior dev, aided by AI, submitted a pull request. You use an AI auditor to highlight logic flaws. You focus your human energy on mentoring the junior on why the architectural choice matters for scalability. At 3 p.m., there is an incident. Production is slow. You do not SSH into a server. You query the observability agent. Correlate the latency spike with recent changes. It tells you. The new feature introduced a non-indexed database read. You approve the AI's suggested fix. It deploys. The problem is solved in 4 minutes. You log off at 5 p.m. You wrote maybe 50 lines of actual code today, but you shipped a feature that would have taken a team of 2 weeks to build in 2023. In conclusion, the standard in 2026 is speed, scale, and orchestration. But amidst the agents and the automation, the most critical component remains the human anchor. AI can answer any how, it can solve any what, but it still cannot answer why. Why are we building this feature? Why does this user experience matter? Why is this ethical? The developers of 2026 are not just machine operators. They are the guardians of intent. They are the bridge between human desire and machine execution. Coding is dead. Long live software engineering.